I'm here to mine.
Oh cool, got your tool?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, do you know what mining is?
Ladies, gentlemen, and pals of all ages, normally I'd lead into this with some sort of spiel, but let's be real, you know why you're here. If you're here, it's because you're playing Palworld and you're looking to get some more information pumped directly into your veins to augment your experience for the better. Things to make your experience easier or even just more enjoyable, so that's what we're going to do. Quite simply, another list of lesser known tips, tricks, or secrets, with some of them being pretty unusual things I've not seen talked about much at all in the community, and others being somewhat more known things, but I just think that are important enough to call out for anyone who doesn't know about them because it will make a massive difference once they do. On that note, we're going to start with one of those ones. When you open a storage chest, look at the keybinds in the bottom right. One of them says Quick Stack, and what this does is take any item in your inventory that matches the items in your storage box and shoves them all together in the box in one button press. This is something I see tons of players just never actually realize, but it saves you so much time when fiddling with your inventory, and over the course of multiple hundreds of hours of playing the game, it actually really adds up and makes it so more of your playtime is spent actually, playing the game rather than just managing your inventory. On a similar note to that, many if not most people realize at some point that the precious gems that you can find in chests and drops are exclusively used for selling to merchants. That's their only purpose. They are for gaining gold and nothing else. If you didn't know that, now you do, but something I've seen far fewer people realize is that the same is true for the various blue drops from pals that have precious in the title, such as precious pelt or the dragonstone items you get from higher tier pals as well. All of these look initially like something you might use for crafting later on. Maybe you're hoarding them in case they do come up later in the tech tree, but if you read the description on these items, any item in the game that contains the words "can be sold to a merchant at a high price" or some variation of that is meant exclusively for selling. It has no other purpose, so bring it out and sell it. I know quite a lot of the later or endgame players might already be aware of this, but this can be massive for anyone around the mid game who might just be sitting on a stack of like 100 or more precious pelts, not realizing they've got tens of thousands of gold waiting to be picked up once they actually go and sell it. Then we've got one that's a bit fun in that it is twofold. First, it is the existence of the memory wipe potion. This doesn't come up as part of base leveling process, so some people miss it along the way, but in the low level 40s you unlock in the tech tree an electric medicine workbench that you can put together. This of course speeds up the process of medicine creation in general compared to the earlier bench, but it also unlocks the ability to create the memory wipe potion, which specifically just resets all of your skill points when you use it. If you are someone who's been really cautious and careful about which stats you've raised every level the whole way up, this item gives you quite a bit of freedom and leeway as a result. It does have a crafting cost, but not an insane one, which means once you have a nice stock of resources, you can make a load of these, which is quite useful for the next tip here, which is using memory wipe potions to help with larger ventures or things that you're specifically wanting to do. For example, let's say you're going to go fight some legendary pals, big fight, bit of a challenge, but your generally leveling setup includes a lot of stat points and maybe weight load or stamina. Using one of these memory wipe potions, change everything over to your attack stats for maximum offense, then you can use another potion after to change it back to whatever you like. The same actually applies to another use within your pal base, and this is quite a fun one I've not seen many people catch onto. For whatever reason, pal gear such as saddles or harnesses or what have you cannot be produced on any of the actual factory production lines, which sucks because once you're making things like legendary saddles on the basic pal gear bench, they can take ridiculous amounts of time to actually construct, mostly because unlike the factory lines, only one pal can assist you at a time in their creation, and the player's work speed itself is absolutely nothing when compared to a high tier handiwork pal. Or is it? Well, let's get that memory wiping potion back out because we're going to use that and put all of our points into a stat that often goes untouched, which is player work speed. What you may not have realized is that every stat put into work speed raises it by 50, which means putting in 2 points, you've already doubled your base work speed, put all 49 into it for the purpose of crafting a saddle faster, and suddenly you're at 2550 work speed, which is 25.5 times the speed that a player crafts at a base. This applies to building gear, crafting medicine, manually cooking, planting, watering, all of it. If you are going to spend a lot of time doing base stuff for a bit, and you have the materials to spare to make the potions, I definitely think you should memory wipe into work speed because it is insanely effective. Then we have a very major combat one. This has come up a bit recently in other videos that we've done, but I always make sure the best hidden tips specifically find their way into these. And the big one that I want to bring up here is partner skill cooldown resetting. All pals have partner skills. A lot of pals have partner skills that have cooldowns. All of these pals are affected by this bug, but generally the most potent ones are taking advantage of this are things things like Lyleen and Lyleen Noct, which have a massive burst heal on a cooldown, or things like Incineram Noct or Bushi, whose partner skills are just super powerful versions of one of their basic attacks. So basically a burst damage button with a cooldown. Or, hey, even Gorirat with his Berserk mode. If you can reset the cooldown on it, that would mean he could stay Berserk permanently, right? So how do we do this then? Simple. Use the partner skill once, open up your menu, go to the party screen, drop that pal on the floor, then pick them back up. When you do so, its partner skill cooldown will be fully reset. And interesting to note that this also resets attack skill cooldowns too, just in general. So if you're using a pal with 3 massively high power moves, but with longer cooldowns, you can do the same thing to reset those cooldowns and get them going with it once again. Aside from that, another interesting note for pal combat, sleeping pal enemies will take massive bonus damage from the attack that wakes them up. You may have noticed this passively or coincidentally, you may have not, but it's a very important thing to bring up for anyone who doesn't know about it, as it can make a number of quite hard fights a lot easier, even up to some of the legendary alphas. At night, all pals that are not dark type will sleep, so this is reliable to set up, and when you get the first attack on a sleeping pal, it seems to do up to 4 times damage compared to if they are awake. So a fun strategy if you're taking on a bit of a challenge is to simply do it at night for this bonus hit, and more importantly to do so with a weapon that does a lot of damage in a single hit, so that it actually boosts the damage of that one hit the amount that you want. Whether that be a combat pal that has a massive single pop of damage active skill, or just with a player holding a rocket launcher in their hand, something like that. Either way will get this job done. Then we have a bit of a simple one, but one that can once again save some really good time. In the game there are a number of pickaxes and axes that you can lock along the progression path, but what you may not realize is that while there aren't any more pickaxes or axes for the last couple handfuls of levels, there are upgrades to these tools, being Lily's spear and consequently the sword, which is actually the best of the bunch. The sword is sort of limited as an actual combat tool. It does similar damage per swing to a singular assault rifle bullet, but that's not exactly what it's actually for, despite, you know, being a sword, which are historically combat weapons. In reality, in this game, its best use is any manual mining or lumbering that you might find yourself doing. Maybe you find yourself just in need of a pile of sulfur in a pinch, or a handful of quartz. Take a sword instead of a pickaxe, and you'll find it's actually significantly quicker. Couple more quick ones then to round off the day. First, focused on base building. I've seen lots of people ask if there are ways to extend the radius of your base, because the circle that you get is definitely sort of small for all the functions you might want to have, especially when combined with creating a nice aesthetic living area for your player too. And the simple answer is no, you can't extend the technical circle of the base, but you can make your base bigger in a way, and the simple way to explain it is just sort of that you can build outside of the circle for anything that isn't actually resource related or pal related. If you want to build a player house, you can just build it 10 feet outside of the circle, giving you more space within the circle for the actual pal functions. And before you mention it, yes, building outside of the circle is limiting, mostly because any structures outside of it will slowly degrade, meaning that they lose health over time, and after enough time passes, they will simply just explode into a pile of materials. The way to get around that, though, is actually a world setting that you can use for private or solo games. Just turn the structure deterioration rate setting down to 0, and that will let you build regular things wherever you want, even letting you build sprawling plazas outside of base range that will actually never be destroyed naturally, with the only issue being if you are building outside of the base, you do need to actually carry the materials on your character itself, as you don't have the luxury of linked up storage containers outside the circle. That said, if you're going to do that, you could always do the old memory wipe potion and put every single stat point into weight limit, which would make it ridiculous as well. Then one final thing here, a lot of people do know about this as it's floated around for a while, but you can actually capture the tower bosses in the game. All you need to do is get yourself a wanted level by attacking a person or anything like that. An easy way to do that is to go to a settlement and just attack one of the civilians with a low damage attack, then head into a tower boss fight by teleporting over. The PIDF will show up there because you are wanted, and if you can get them to just sort of accidentally, coincidentally shoot the boss, it will bug the boss out, and a few seconds later, you can throw a pal sphere at the boss for a 100% guaranteed capture. This is obviously an unintended function, and the main reason people were sharing this around was the fact that they keep their insane health pool, so you can walk around with like a 30,000 health Grisbolt, which is absolutely ridiculous. But then the more recent thing that is why I bring this up right now is that 2 of these tower bosses actually have unique attacks too, which are Shadowbeak from Victor's Tower in the Frosty Mountain, and Lyleen from Lily's Tower in the earlier Game Frost area. Both of these have an attack skill that is simply not available anywhere else in the game, not on a fruit, not unique to a pal, they are just only on the tower boss and nowhere else, with the more interesting one personally being Dark Wisp on the Shadowbeak. Of course, you could just use the tower boss version that you've captured and use the actual attack on it with this, or you could breed that move down to a normal version of the same pal, or down to any pal if you really want to, which would let you have, say, the normal Shadowbeak with Dark Wisp, which is an incredibly strong and obviously quite unique skill given that you just cannot get it normally in the game without this. And that just about does it for today then, everyone. A nice little collection of various tips and tricks to hopefully help you out on your continued journey through Palworld. Some combat-based, some base-based, and some just hopefully helping you out for your general existence in the continuation of the game. If you have any tips or tricks of your own, feel free to leave them in the comments down below so everyone can find them. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.